Have you ever stopped to think that the person who smiles at you the most might be the very one who is destroying you from the inside? The manipulator never shows up with an uncovered face. He wears a mask of kindness, of care, of attention. And the more convincing that mask appears, the closer you move toward it, without noticing the chains being prepared for you. The mask is seductive. It is beautiful. It is designed precisely to deceive your senses. And worse, it feels tailor-made just for you. You believe you have found someone special, when in reality, you were chosen as the target. Carl Jung called this constructed face the persona, the social mask we all wear. But in the hands of a manipulator, that persona stops being protection and turns into a weapon. The question that echoes is simple and disturbing. Do you truly know the person beside you, or are you only looking at the mask they want you to see? Carl Jung believed no one walks through the world with a completely uncovered face. To survive in society, you need something that protects you. The persona, the mask that shows the world the version of yourself that seems most acceptable. Think about how you behave in different places. At work, you wear the mask of competence. With family, perhaps patience. With friends, lightheartedness. It is like changing clothes. Each situation demands a different face. This mask is not, in itself, something bad. On the contrary, it helps keep order, avoids unnecessary conflict, and allows you to adapt. Imagine walking into a job interview and revealing all your fears, insecurities, and bottled-up anger. It would be a disaster. The persona works like a social shield. It protects your vulnerability and creates the bonds that make living together possible. But here lies the darker side. The longer you wear a mask, the easier it becomes to believe it is your real face. And that is where the danger begins. You forget what you truly feel, because the mask starts speaking for you. Jung warned that living only through the persona is like being trapped in a theater that never ends. You act, you smile, you play the part as if you own the stage, but inside, you drift further and further away from who you really are. The persona is necessary, but when it becomes the only thing that exists, it opens the door to the most dangerous game of all, the masks used for manipulation. Now imagine someone who does not use the persona just to adapt, but to deceive. This is the territory of the manipulator. He does not wear the mask to protect himself. He wears it to attack. While you show the world an acceptable version of yourself, he carefully builds a calculated version designed to capture you. The manipulator watches in silence, discovers your weaknesses, and shapes the mask precisely to fit them. If you need attention, he appears attentive. If you long for protection, he seems protective. If you crave understanding, he presents himself as the only one who truly understands you. All of it is an act. Like a stage actor, he knows exactly which role to play to earn your trust. And the more you believe in the mask, the more trapped you become. It is like holding a hand that seems warm on the surface, but behind it hides sharp claws. You do not notice the trap until you feel the cut. Jung said the persona was meant only as a tool for coexistence, but in the hands of a manipulator, it becomes a deadly disguise. And here a disturbing question arises. Have you ever trusted someone who later revealed themselves to be completely different from what they seemed? That is the moment when the mask falls, and the shock is so deep it leaves scars that are hard to erase. At this point, the persona ceases to be just a social adaptation and becomes a psychological weapon, used to control, seduce, and imprison. The manipulator does not wear just one mask. He changes faces as if changing scenes in a play. Today he is sweet, tomorrow he is cold. One moment he praises you, the next he criticizes you. This alternation is no accident. It is strategy. The goal is to confuse you until you no longer know which version to believe. It is like standing on a dimly lit stage where the spotlights shift every minute. You try to follow the light, but it never stays in one place. The manipulator creates this dance of masks to maintain control, because the more unstable you feel, the more dependent you become on his approval. Jung explained that behind the persona, there is always the shadow, the part a person does not want to admit about themselves. The manipulator knows this shadow, but instead of facing it, chooses to hide it behind new masks. The result is an invisible game. While you believe you're seeing the real face, he never reveals anything but another disguise. And when you begin to doubt your own perception, the prison has already been built. That is the moment many ask themselves, am I the problem, or is it the other person who keeps changing? If this speaks to you, subscribe to the channel. You are not alone. Awareness is the first step to breaking the cycle. Because in the end, every mask used against you reveals just one truth. Those who manipulate never show who they really are. Living with someone who changes faces all the time is like dancing to a song without end, never knowing when the steps will shift. At first, you let yourself be carried by the soft melody. Then, you realize the music speeds up, stumbles, wounds, but you cannot stop dancing. This is exactly how the victim of a manipulator feels, lost in a choreography they never chose. The constant instability creates confusion. One day you are valued, the next you are diminished. The heart tries to believe in the affection received, but the mind cannot ignore the wounds opened by criticism. This contradiction slowly corrodes your confidence. Little by little, you begin to doubt yourself. You think, do I deserve this? Am I really not enough? Jung would say this experience fragments the psyche. You stop trusting your own perception, and when you no longer believe in yourself, it becomes easier to believe the other, even if that person is poisoning your identity. It is like looking into a cracked mirror. Each shard reflects a different image of you, and none feels whole. And here comes a question that cuts deep. Can you see how this silent dance has already drained your energy in a relationship? This is the cruelest trap. While you waste your strength trying to make sense of the shifting masks, the manipulator feeds precisely on your confusion. Carl Jung said no one is drawn to a mask by chance. The manipulator can only trap you because he touches something that already exists within you, your own shadow. The shadow is made of everything you prefer to hide, your fears, your repressed desires, your unresolved needs. And it is precisely in that dark space that the manipulator's mask finds fertile ground. Imagine you carry a deep thirst for recognition. The manipulator notices this and puts on the mask of the perfect admirer. You feel that, finally, someone truly sees you. Or perhaps you hold an old fear of abandonment, and he appears wearing the mask of the absolute protector. In both cases, the mask does not create the bond by itself. It merely ignites what was already hidden inside you. That is why Jung declared, what you deny most in yourself, you meet in the other. The manipulator is like a distorted mirror reflecting your shadow, but in a poisoned way. And without realizing it, you become attached more to the reflection than to reality. This is the most uncomfortable part, recognizing that the prison is not built only by the masks of the other, but also by the emptiness that exists within you. Only when those empty spaces are brought into the light does the mask begin to lose its power. When you understand that the manipulator's mask only works because it speaks to your shadow, something changes. The veil begins to tear. To see beyond the mask means to recognize the game, and above all, to recognize your own wounds. It is like turning on a light in a dark stage and discovering that the grand scenery was nothing more than painted cardboard. The manipulator depends on secrecy, on disguise, and on your emotional blindness. But when you begin to observe instead of just feel, he loses ground. You start noticing that the praise always comes right after a criticism, that affection appears right after guilt, that his presence is never consistent. These small cracks reveal that the mask is not as solid as it seems. Jung explained that true liberation happens when the unconscious becomes conscious. By naming the shadow, you stop being its prisoner. By recognizing that your need for approval is being exploited, you create the chance to seek that approval within yourself instead of in the other. It is in that moment that the mask begins to crack. It is not about unmasking the manipulator with screams, but about seeing him with silent clarity. Because once you notice the cardboard behind the scenery, the illusion loses its power. The mask falls, not because he wanted it to, but because you finally learned to look beyond it. The manipulator's mask never falls on its own. It is held up by the game of illusion, the theater of affection, and the fragility that lives within you. Waiting for the other to reveal their true face is like waiting for darkness to turn into light by its own will. That never happens. What has happened is the awakening of your perception. When you see beyond the mask, you discover that the manipulator does not have as much power as it once seemed. He survives on performances, on reflections crafted to deceive. And if he lives on illusions, then he is fragile in the face of awareness. The light that tears through the stage is your ability to recognize the role each one plays, including yourself. But make no mistake, this awakening does not bring instant peace. Seeing the truth is painful. It is realizing that, many times, you are bound not only to the other, but to your own need to believe in the lie. It is confronting the shadow that kept you blind. It is understanding that freedom demands the price of lucidity. If this message spoke to you, leave your like. This simple gesture shows that you are awake and helps more content like this reach those who need it. And share this video with someone who must learn to see beyond the mask. You may be the spark that lights the darkness where someone else is still trapped. See you in the shadows of the next hidden truth.